Hey, what's up, guys? Some quick film suggestions. I can say more obscure films or films that don't have a good reputation that I feel do. Let's just go through them. Inferno. In a lot of ways, this is almost it has like the least amount of narrative for an Argento film, right? But I always thought it was very interesting that it was, of course, most of it was shot in Rome, but the fact that it was shot in New York, right, the, in the city, and just like the set piece with the apartment with the underwater with corpses in it was just visually like unreal, you know. The Also, it's interesting that Mario Bava did some visual effects on this. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, if you could take that as a reference, making cityscapes out of milk cartons. I mean, that's well, Bava, you know, legend, man, legend. So, and Dr. Phibes, both films. Because the first one I like better than the second, but they should have made a more of these. Now this sort of has a reputation as a critical success. Everybody loves Dr. Phibes. I just can't go on and off about just like just the weird element of it. The time period it's in. The fact that he already has like enemies in the second film, the humor, the fact that the cops, the rank and file cops are actually a little more capable than their bureaucratic bosses, but just in general, the aesthetics, the way this is done, okay, the fact that the villain is really the main character. I can't go on enough about the Phibes films. They should have, like I said, they should have done a couple of more of these, expanding it, but not. Like I said, critically, people like the film. Whereas Fear the Wolfman, Paul Nashi hated this film. He didn't like it. I think this film's awesome. I remember watching this on Channel 9 on a very, very hot summer night in the early 80s. We didn't have air conditioning back then. It was just fans, And I remember watching this. I remember the woman, the evil mad scientist woman. I remember not liking her. And this movie is there's killer plants. There's like him fighting in an insane asylum. The guy dressed in armor attacking him, fighting another werewolf woman, fighting her. The two goons that get acid scarred. It's just a crazy film, and Nashi didn't like it. I think this is awesome, and I also like the other name this had, Wolfman Never Sleeps. I remember the line in the beginning. He's like, "I would die 1,000 times that you would love me." I remember. I don't know. It's kind of cucky, but sometimes we get like that, right? We get all romantic, dark. Of course, the woman betrays him in the beginning and becomes a werewolf later because of her. It's just a fascinating film. Like I said, Nash didn't like it, but you know what? I like this movie, man. All right, The Raven. All right. I remember watching this with Mr. LaFond in the Toxic Tree House in Baltimore, where this takes place. Obviously, interesting film where there's some kind of criminal mastermind murdering people in Baltimore in the mid 19th century, and Edgar Allan Poe is actually a character in it, where someone starts using some of his story motifs as a murder device. Very, in some ways, you could say it was kind of like, okay, making Hollywood when Hollywood could still make like decent films about a literary person like this. It's just cool seeing Edgar Allan Poe as a character in it. John Cusack. It's It's like Jules Verne makes an appearance. Well, as a character at the end, I think though there was a little time lapse there. Obviously Poe died in the late 1840s, but well, it's just this was actually not a bad film, man. The Raven, I think this came out in, what is it, 2011 or yeah, 2012, 2012. It's another bloody planet. All right, now Halloween 4 and 5. I remember when these came out. I was in high school. I remember renting them and not liking them, like renting the VHS and not liking these films, right? And then maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was the damn uh what was it, AMC, when they started, apparently like in the 2000, early 2000s, they started playing Halloween and 4 and 5 all the time. One after the other, like Fear Friday, they used to do that thing, you know. They would play Halloween 4 and 5 all the friggin' time, all year round. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I kept watching it, I don't know, maybe it just started to grow on me. But to be honest, looking at them now, both these films shot in Utah of all places. These were really good movies. The poor little girl in both films is totally put through the paces of terror, and there's like almost no humor in this. Like when you think of 80s horror, you think of like, like campy fun or comedy or whatever. There's none of that in this. These are very grim, serious films. Michael is no joke. Michael has huge body counts in both these films. He kills about like 100 cops, and you love every friggin' minute of it. But the little girl here, right? Obviously, there was a plot device put into this where there was like a cult. Remember the Man in Black, as you see walking around, culminating in part 6, which that's another film that's grown on me. Of course, there's two different versions of part 6, but 4 and 5 alone, they came out in consecutive years, I believe 88 and 89. They've they really stood the test of time. They've really grown on me, and a lot of people realize that these are actually better sequels than people thought, better films than people thought at the end of the 80s. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, the Flesh and the Fiends, right? Now, what is this? Right? Now, the byline here is more fierce than Frankenstein, more demonic than Dracula, right? But still, this film actually is based on the actual, if you ever heard of Burke and Hare, right? The actual resurrection men, right? The grave robbers. And Cushing is the doctor who commissions these two here. You get this creepy, I don't know this actor too well, but he does a pretty good job. George Rose being a creepy Irish immigrant. About Donald Pleasance, he's like the he's kind of like the sniveling one, which, like I keep saying, Donald Pleasance. I cannot enough go over Donald Pleasance, the genius of Donald Pleasance. What an actor! This is the real acting, man. Okay, obviously Mr. Pleasance was a RAF pilot in a Lancaster bomber during the war. Was in a POW camp. The guy, I believe, from the north of England. Amazing actor. This dude had to play, of course, one of the early roles you saw him in. He was, what's his name? Symes, right? In the BBC 1984 telecast with Peter Cushing. But in this film, this guy, he has to play, he always plays the sniveling guy. Remember the scene where they put him in the lime pit? He's like, not my eyes, don't take my eyes. And they're like, yeah, we're going to take your eyes. Blind him. Oof. Of course, what these guys do, what do? They supply fresh bodies to Peter Cushing's character, the Robert Knox, the eminent surgeon. This, of course, is when, doing stuff with cadavers was still taboo. Of course, and the whole thing is that these men decided, hey, to make money, we'll supply fresh cadavers to the doctor. Very fresh. They murdered people to do that, of course. When they got found out, there was street justice. So And of course, the surgeon got away with it, as an upper class man, got away with that, although his reputation was damaged. So, but great film, man. And I don't know who John Gilling directed it. He's the guy who directed some of the Reptile and the Plague of the Zombies. But I don't know what movie studio made this, but Flesh and Fiends, man, dude, always solid film. Another British film here, Raw Meat. I've gone over this, right? Shot in the London Underground. Mind the doors. Yeah, this is a really... Beneath the streets of London, an unspeakable terror lurks. Well, now the unspeakable terror, which you can't speak about, is above the ground, on the surface of London and all over Europe. Right, and the whole thing of this is, of course, is that this man here is the tunnel workers making the subways, or as they call it, the underground. Right, there were tunnel workers who survived the cave in. But the company was too cheap to save them, and so they just left them to die, but they didn't die. They had children, and they became troglodytes, and now one of the last surviving one is murdering people in the underground and eating them. But what a great film. Pleasance again is in this. Inspector Calhoun, he's a pisser, man. Hilarious. He does a really good job, you know. Half the film is his interplay with people. And Christopher Lee shows up in this as well. And a very cool scene with Mr. Pleasance. But yeah, Raw Meat. Gary Sherman. This guy, Gary Sherman, made another great film, Dead and Buried. Right? But I'll go over that. Around the Asphyx. This was an interesting film. The great Robert Stephens, right? Playing that Billy Wilder film about Sherlock Holmes. And Robert Powell was in a bunch of stuff. But this is truly a gothic, weird tales type film. The idea that you can make somebody immortal by freezing this thing. When somebody dies, this thing takes the soul, right? It's an old Greek, what is it, the Asphyx, the ancient Greek spirit of the dead. When they find a way to stymie this thing and contain it, which is funny because it reminds me almost of like Slimer from Ghostbusters, but when they're able to trap this thing and stop it from taking the soul away through getting someone very close to death, the person becomes immortal. Of course, there's a lot of tragedy involved with this, right? Defying the laws of the natural and the spiritual world unleashes dreadful consequences. Yeah, this is really a really good film, man. Very much in the Hammer style, but even like deeper. Like I said, it's more like a weird tale, and a romantic tale. It's to say the early 19th century, you know, Mary Shelley type story. And then rounding it out, this film, the Silent Hill adaptation. I think they made a part 2. I haven't seen it, but Silent Hill, man. Now the CGI in this, man, the CGI in this is good. It's effective. It's a very vicious film. It's a very surreal film. Familiar with Silent Hill, you know. Very nasty. Okay, there's no mercy for anybody in this film. You know, there's no the chick from The Walking Dead, the South African actress in this, who's a cop. Her fate is so horrible, man. And Sean Bean is in this, right? Ironically, the town this is based on, Centralia, which is nothing like what is in here. But I think this is a very underrated film, the Silent Hill movie. Of course, there's some controversy about the Resident Evil films. I actually like the first two, so which is blasphemy. But the Silent Hill adaptation, and I haven't seen the sequel. Like this friggin', I forgot this thing is no joke, man. When the siren goes off and everybody is just like, you know, all hell's gonna break loose. I thought this was a really underrated film, man. It should be mentioned a lot more than it is. Anyway, went over enough. We got, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I did it. The 10 interesting films I think that you should get a little more attention. What do you think? All right. Shocktober continues later.